From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, how are you today? We're back with another great guest and looking forward to our episode.
I'm doing great, Steve. I'm looking forward to this one. So yeah, this is going to be a great episode. Another one where I could probably sit back, be quiet, and let the expert actually talk. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing okay. Little bit fighting a little cold and cough. But I know that you guys will fill in for me where needed. But this is going to be a good one, and I think a little bit more in your wheelhouse as well. Without further ado, we get to welcome Colin Birney. He's the co-founder and manager of consulting services at AV MSP, and also the vice president and treasurer of AV Trust, and we'll learn more about that as we go. But welcome, Colin.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here and happy to talk programming and other things. So, yeah, this will be fun. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, we're excited to have you, and I know you for a little bit in our conversations, and I've followed your journey just a little bit. But if you could share with our audience what where you've been in AV and the things that you focus on.
Yeah, it all started when I was a child and the little mobile was going, and I thought it sounded a little tinny. So, it started my journey. No, really, I think for most people, it's probably less common now, but the journey is very similar to a lot of people's, which is I got a guitar. I was going to be in a band. I got interested in the soundboard. I have a college degree in industrial engineering, which helps in some stuff, which we'll get into on the programming side. But like that love of that sort of technology led me down a path of, first installing, not a great job, wasn't a great company, but I think a lot of people entered and, thankfully stuck out through. I then went to the original SPL in Atlanta, way back in the day. So I went into AV with about a year of experience from install, and I ended up being the service department doing some install. I was the Crestron programmer, uh, all of the DSP programming, did drafting and design, did on-site commissioning. One of our big projects while I was there was the original CDC Education Center. It was probably one of the biggest jobs in the Southeast. Programmed a bunch of rooms there. I hope no one suffered too much for it, but it was challenging because we were using, these big complicated systems and lots of RGB HV and a lot of interlocked buttons and routing and stuff. It was a pretty challenging project, but that's sort of where I got into integration. And then from there, I went over to the customer side. I worked for a number of different corporations, moved around a lot, got a lot of experience, and that sort of took me into the IT world. So I sort of, saw the marrying of those. I think a lot of people saw it. Like they saw that, the convergence was happening in real time, even back in like, 2010 when we were doing this stuff. And that's where I kind of ended up is that I slowly tapered off of the traditional programming, got more into, network configuration and how we get all these devices online and how do we do it safely? How do we manage the service around them? So that sort of day two kind of thing. Um, I was a consultant for 8 years, leading up into the current set of circumstances I found myself in now, and that was fun. That was a good time, and it was a lot of exposure to really large groups and kind of seeing how everyone did things and how they didn't do things. And I think unfortunately, I would love to have seen more maturity in the industry around managed services and around the way we organize our projects and the way we deliver them. And that's part of the onus around starting AVMSP was that I didn't feel like anyone was doing it to what I wanted to see, and so I built the thing I wanted, and for better or for worse, here I am. I still have a lot of other engagements where I help with managed services consulting and things like that. But I have a great partner that runs the business with me, and she does a fantastic job on the day to day and keeping the help desk moving. So yeah, that's the abridged version. But there's a lot in between. It's a lot of years and a lot of countries I've like traveled to and lived in as part of part of this journey. But here I am now, sitting in the desert and talking to you all.
Excellent. Well, that's you've certainly touched on so many different aspects of the industry, and I'm sure that all of that has helped to kind of shape your knowledge base and your offerings right now. I talk a little bit about the MSP and the managed services side because I think that that's can be a new concept to a lot of people in this industry. It's very common on the IT side, but you're trying to bring that over to this industry, which I think is could be a little reluctant to change and likes to do
Yeah.
things a certain way.
Well, so managed services, I think the big shift that we have in the industry, and again, this is something I think is getting a lot more traction. I think a lot more people know this, but the execution is sort of where it's lacking. But the idea is that we're managing, services for our customers. We're not throwing people at a problem. I don't sign a contract and get 5 people on site. I sign a contract to have certain services supported. Maybe it takes 5 people to run it, and maybe it's more convenient for them to be on site, but we're not tying labor to it in the more direct way. The other thing that we try to do is to be really proactive, and that's where all of the monitoring, remote management, all of that comes in, is that if I'm waiting for something to break and for someone to have a bad time, I'm still being reactive. That's what we call break fix. Like it's broken, I go fix it. We all say, great, we're done here. But I could have the same room break 10 times in the same way. And if I'm not paying attention and I'm not tracking that, it leads to growing frustration. It leads to, um, lack of trust in delivering services. And it also leads to a lot of wasted time and money. If I notice something, breaks 3 times in a row, we're going to, put on the brakes and have a conversation before I roll another truck. And that's kind of at the core of managed services. How do we mitigate issues before they happen? There's still going to be stuff we can't deal with, with monitoring. A TV is going to break. Someone's going to, put a dongle through it or who knows what and and crack it, or it'll just fail. Sometimes, you can't really register that stuff. I can't tell the picture quality remotely just yet. But that's where we need to be going, is that it's more cost effective. I think more and more customers want smaller teams on site. If you can do it remotely, do as much as you can remotely. They don't want an army of people taking up a massive room and running all over the place and, trying to address issues in real time. They want more proactive um, services. And, one of the things that we really stress is that, hey, if you have an important meeting, don't tell me about it 5 minutes into it when something's going wrong. Tell me a week ahead of time. I'll do a test call all day long. I'll help walk through it. We'll make sure that, we've done our due diligence to make sure that, things are going to go as well as they possibly can. It's like there's some stuff we can't control. We can't control networks. We can't control random failures, but we can do our due diligence and go, oh, these microphones weren't charging. And instead of finding out at the time of the meeting, we found out a week ago and we make sure they're charging or get new batteries or whatever it is. That's the sort of proactive nature that we try to go in because, like you said, it's more like IT. And in the world of IT, nobody jumps up and runs to go fix something unless you're in the C-suite. Everyone else sits and waits for a new laptop to come in or for someone to come by when they have time. Like it's not this, we don't save meetings in IT, and that's something we still try to do. We try to save a meeting and it's not contractually possible, and it's just not reasonable in how people need to work. Like I should be able to go and finish my lunch as an on-site tech and not run to a meeting because someone's having a bad time. That's what we have to change in the culture of how we deliver service.
James, I would imagine a lot of this is relatable to you, and I know we'll get more into the IT stuff, but um, the this concept is great, and we've talked a lot about the the project doesn't end when it gets delivered. It actually starts because that's when it's going to be used. So, how do you see the value of what Colin is describing, and the adoption of that in the industry?
So the value is definitely a high value. I'm gonna say higher ed kind of did this internally. Um, if you look at schools, majority of them have local folks inside to provide that support. It could be a team of one, it could be a team of 100. All depending on the school and their beliefs and all that stuff into it. So the value's there. It just, I don't think a lot of the corporate other places, the bars, the hospitalities, have seen that value because they never got it before until now. And now they're getting with MSPs, and they're starting to see it, especially as Colin said, IT's been doing for years. IT does their maintenance, they're watching, they're monitoring, they're proactive. You'll be surprised how much people respect a proactive and not a reactive solution. Um, I mean, that's what we do. We want to provide a seamless user experience in our with our EV equipment, our technology that we're providing. So if we're reacting, we're not providing that seamless react experience. But we can proact. One thing that my team does is, and I know a lot of schools don't do this, but I know some schools do, is my team goes around and we check every room on a rotational basis, and we hit every button. We put room through its full paces to try to see if there's an issue before someone reports it. So that's something we do naturally. We just are always testing. So yeah, I think what Colin and they are doing with the MSP is highly valuable, and hopefully we start seeing more.
Yeah, it's I think that this also kind of rolls into the conversation of the monitoring and remote management, which I'm sure there's a lot of tools that can be used. But Colin, can you talk a little bit about how do you prepare a system for being managed by a remote team or your services?
I mean, a lot of it, we try to pitch this to as sort of this is a journey. When I'm onboarding a new customer, we do it really fast, like within a couple hours. Like when that ink is before that ink's dried, we try to keep people onboarded because one, we want to start billing. Why would I wait 3 or 4 or 5 months to do a bunch of gathering along the way? But two, customers want to start being able to use the service, and it's a easy way in to go, okay, I've got people I know that are authorized to use the service. I've got sites, I've got locations I can tie to as assets. Let's start at least recording those tickets as they come in. It's that we're gathering all the assets we can, the non-monitored ones. For monitored ones, that's a discussion with IT, with security, and that's part of why we onboard quickly is that sometimes that security discussion goes a lot longer, or the architecture isn't there, or there's, shadow IT or isolated networks that we're gonna have some challenges getting onto, and there's a longer term strategy to doing that safely from a security perspective. And the big pitch that we have is like, hey, it's not just monitoring, it's the management, it's the patching, the firmware updates. Do you really want unpatched devices hanging out versus not? And so it's a long-term haul to get in there. And as we get in, we start looking for opportunities to automate, opportunities to make things easier. This is where I think, kind of the programming piece comes in, is that we're taking a lot of feedback from situations and customer frustrations and things that maybe weren't thought about during integration to say, hey, would it be easier if we relabeled this button or we moved it around, or would it be easier if we added a button that resets the system or reboots a device? Even like we've had that issue in the past where some odd device hangs up and they can call us and they can reboot the smart PDU outlet, or guess what, I can put a button on it, and if you know what that button does, just do it. You know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna reboot that thing, and that fixes the issue 90% of the time. So why don't we put a little bit of knowledge in the hands of people that are dealing with frustration. So a lot of it is a long-term look at how do we create opportunities to make things better, because like ultimately, like that's kind of the core of managed services. Like we're in the business of creating a good experience. And that was the same thing when I was programming. It's like you have to think about, it's like, okay, who's going to use this, and are they going to, I'm not going to say enjoy it. Does anyone really enjoy going into a conference room? but are they going to logically be able to look at it and go, oh, this doesn't stress me out. I'm not confused by what I'm seeing. And it's the same thing for that whole world. We want users to at least feel comfortable walking into a room and have A, confidence that it's going to work, and B, confidence that they can operate it and get what they need out of it. Because we don't, have time for this. And yeah, in an ideal world, you would do prep for your meetings and you would do test calls and you would understand the rooms, but it's a low priority. It's, oh, I have a meeting. I better get up from my desk and go, that kind of thing. Or I have a call. I need to get on it. People move into it without as much work. And so it's our job to kind of create that situation where we hear their feedback and we understand like there's give and take, like sometimes there's unreasonable demands, but yeah, that's where we go. It's a journey, and like no two customers are the same. Like we have a lot of standards and practices and things that we do, but customers are legitimately unique in what they need, and they have different ways of working. And so our goal is to be as flexible as possible. We have multiple ingest methods for how we receive, tickets. We have multiple ways of touching systems and getting things out. I mean, at the very least right now, it's like put everything on a smart PDU, please. Because everything's running Android and on a little, DC brick. Those things just hang up. Be able to give them a kick and get them going. That's number one. You can do that yourself and probably eliminate half your tickets because that's what I'm going to do. That's what a manufacturer tells you to do. Like, did you reboot it? Did you update the firmware? It's like, cool, yeah, let's, let's figure out how to automate that.
Yeah, really great stuff. You know, I'm curious how the I mean, first off, I like the idea of, helping the clients really get the most of their systems,
Hmm.
both in eliminating problems, or preventing problems, but also improving the performance. The is there a way that you can demonstrate value? Like, like when it comes to that, is it in reporting? Is it in, you know, uptime? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's kind of it's any number of things. I mean, the first thing that we do is obviously like we have compliance from our contracts around how we deliver services. That's where your SLAs are. It's like, did we respond in the right amount of time? Did we resolve it in the right amount of time? Like, what were we up to what we agreed to deliver? So that's an obvious one. But yeah, there's other things that we do where it's like uptime is a good one. It's also, we're finding that uptime is also a bad thing. Like our RMM that we use to manage PCs, I have uptime monitors that say if this thing hasn't been rebooted in 30 days, reboot it. That's a problem. It's a problem for a Windows machine. It's a problem for Linux machines. They shouldn't just be hanging out. Same thing for Android. It's like if you don't reboot your phone regularly, you're taking risks in, so you're taking security risks. You're taking you're not potentially not getting the proper patches, you're not resetting software, you're not getting rid of, bloated processes happening. And so, uptime and not uptime are both things that we do. That's where like change management comes in around like, okay, how do we ensure that everyone is on the right, firmware? How do we keep aware of that? And so a lot of the reporting is about, okay, do we demonstrate that we're taking the proactive steps to do things? A lot of times, people talk about it's like, oh, you'll see a reduction in incidents. Like, not always. If people trust us and they want to talk to us, we'll probably see more tickets than we would if we were not trusted because people will try to fix it themselves or they won't bother. And so for me, a rise in tickets isn't necessarily concerning because it shows that we're building trust and people want to talk to us and they understand that we'll take resolution in. We also track the number of requests. So requests are different. It's people asking questions or asking for advice or asking for improvements. And so we field those in a different path. I like to see a rise in those too, because it shows that people are now invested in what they've purchased. They're invested in the operations to it. So that to me is always a sign of trust from a customer. It's like, oh, I'm seeing a rise in requests. This we're having conversations and we're getting in, embedded in how they do their work, understanding them better. So those are a few things that we try sort of infer from it. It's not a hard and fast rule, but again, every customer is a little different, and we have, we can make any report for any reason on anything, and that's kind of the beauty of these systems is that it's all just in a database. So how do you want it presented and chopped and sliced? And some people have an idea, and some people don't, and we help them with it. But a lot of it too is the information we present. We try to help our customers, honestly, it's like, I want you, whoever are managing this account and manage this, I want you to get promoted. I want you to show success in your world. And so we also provide reports that they can turn around and show to their management to say, hey, this is what this vendor is doing. This is why it's a benefit to us. This is why I'm doing a good job. This is why our vendor's doing a job, and we all benefit from that. So that's another part of it that I think a lot of people don't think about. Is like, if you're helping your customer's career and helping their upward visibility, it's going to help you stay with longevity in that contract.
Yeah, really good stuff. I mean, I like a lot of, I like hearing a lot of the stuff, and I feel like it's the things that we talk about a lot, and the proactive side of let's make AV better, let's make an experience better, let's to try to eliminate some of the black eyes that AV tends to get.
Yeah.
J James, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask James, like, from the customer's perspective, especially in higher ed, you talk about everyone, going and checking rooms physically. Are you seeing a push towards automation or even the tools available to automate that? Because you can remotely press a button, right? And is that something that you see as something that we should all be working towards, is less people running around the rooms and more people sitting at a desk and, virtually running around rooms and poking buttons and doing things?
So yes and no. So I will admit I'm fortunate right now that I have a decent size staff for the amount of spaces we support. Um, for example, I have 5 to 6 student workers plus 3 full-time employees, and I have one building.
Yeah.
5 stories, technically 10 classrooms, but we have a lot of conference rooms and stuff like that. The benefit of, having them go around in the room is there's things that you can't catch remotely. Like one is say the image quality. Like, yeah, we're getting better at that and stuff. We also don't have it in place right now. It's on the list. Long story there, but that'll eventually come. But other things that they see is cool. Is the furniture in the room? Is the furniture broken? Is the lights out? That's not AV, but we are good partners with our customers,
Hmm.
uh, and we don't want them coming into a conference room and all the chairs are gone.
Yeah.
So we can, hey, this room has no chairs, and let facilities know, hey, something happened. People came in and stole the chairs for a different room, and let's get these back. So that's part of that on the hands-on. But yeah, more and more remote stuff that we start onboarding, the more uh beneficial, because we're going to grow, and soon my spaces will outpace my staff to be able to provide that kind of service. um but one thing I want to really note on is how you talked about that value is really the trust of the customer. I'm the same way. I'm not a numbers person. I don't look and go, well, Colin, you only closed 5 tickets, or hey, Steve, you put in 1,000 tickets. Like, I don't base my things off numbers. I find patterns, like Colin mentioned. Um, because yeah, if I have to reboot a room every day or every week, that's a problem. We shouldn't have to do that. So start catching those and seeing what's going on. But the value, having the trust of your customers. And I had a really good one a couple years ago, and I'll admit this was a mistake I did. I caused this mistake. I took down the AV network in the middle of orientation, which anyone knows higher ed orientation is huge. This is one of our biggest events for higher education. And I took the AV network down in the middle of it because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. Now, once I did what I did, I was able to recover. We were up and running within a minute, 2 minutes, give or take, for things to clear out. And I remember going to the person who was on stage during orientation, and I apologized to them later. I saw them later. I'm like, look, I'm sorry. It was a mistake. This happened. And she looked me square in the eyes and go, I had no concerns. We knew you would get it up and like you as IT would get it up and running. She's like, if I was at a different school, that would have been a different conversation. So that trust is
Yeah.
the users are like, hey, something went wrong, but I know someone's fixing it.
Yeah. No, that is really important. It's nice when you get to that point that people recognize it because yeah, it's not by accident. You don't build trust as as something to, a fun hobby. Like it's work. It's work to do that. And it's easier to not. It's easier to let things slide and to do a okay job. And I appreciate people that put in the effort to build that trust because that is hard. And that's the thing I think that when it comes to managed services, the reason we don't see it taking off as much is because it's not easy. If it was easy to do managed services, everyone would do it. There's lots of things that are easy. It's easy to throw a guy in a truck and roll him to site. That's easy because I bill for it and we're great, or it's part of your package, that you buy. That's easy. It's easy to foist that on someone to figure it out in the moment. But, taking the time to build trust and build relationships and be proactive and look for, trends, that is a lot. That's work and it's the work that we do.
I think it's really great sentiment in that regard, and I think it's providing value to everybody involved. Some of the things that you also touched on, and we're going to have you back for the next episode, is on updates and patches and security and so forth. And I know there's a bigger story to tell there. So that's a teaser for our next episode. But if you can tell us how we could reach you, Colin, how people can get in touch with you. We'll have you back on to continue the conversation. But until then, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, finding me on LinkedIn, Colin Birney, it's pretty straightforward. I'm one of two. I knew the other Colin Birney as well, which people that don't get them mixed up like some people have. But yeah, find me on LinkedIn. It's easy. av-msp.com, and then avtrust.com is also the nonprofit that we run, the cybersecurity nonprofit. You can head over there, learn more. You can also connect with us that way, connect with me directly. So I'm pretty easy to get a hold of, and I like to talk, as you know. So please reach out for a conversation. Let's chat.
Yeah, and I know that you do offer different times where there's an open discussion and stuff like that online. So that's a great opportunity for anybody to get to know Colin and get involved in the conversation.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you.
James, how can people get in touch with you? If you have any final thoughts that you want to share, and um, people can continue the conversation.
Yeah. As you know, I always say, don't get in touch with me. Get in touch with Colin. Wealth of knowledge. He is definitely a great person to connect with. Check out AV Trust, AV MSP. Definitely check those out. Get connected with Colin. If you're so inclined to follow me, you can Google me. You'll find me. I'm out there.
Excellent. And for me, you can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social platforms. LinkedIn is the best place, as everybody's been saying these days. We do have a LinkedIn group for Ask the Programmer, so please join that as well. And we invite all our guests to share more about themselves and about what they're doing, and expand upon these conversations in that group. And it's a great place for people to get to meet each other. My company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of this podcast, and we build some of the uh, building blocks that programmers use to integrate products and also add functionality to their system. You could find out more about that at controlconcepts.net. And we will be launching a new website soon called ccisupported.net. So that's going to be showcasing some of those integrations that you could check out. This podcast is available in two forms, video and audio. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can listen to us on the go in your favorite podcast player. And if you are listening, you can check us out on YouTube. Both great places to leave a rating review and get to see what we look like. And also share your favorite episode. We'd really like to, that would mean a lot to us. And we'd really like to know what you like and provide us that feedback. So we've been having some great guests. We've been trying some different formats. We want to kind of keep the content fresh here at Ask the Programmer. So please let us know what you think. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, this has been Ask the Programmer.